Hello, everybody. Welcome to our welcome to our live stream. Yay! Hello. Um, okay, so I've seen that people have spoken. Um, this sorry. Yeah, I was a bit excited about the countdowns and everything. I was like, but amazingly, we managed to do something like you can see my head over here on the left side and the right side of the screen, and then we have very nice logos on top, right? So we're gonna call this a SvelteWeekend. So hello to SvelteWeekend, and over the last so we are trying to make this a weekend kind of live stream. And the last week, what we have done is we have started this project to build a Google Sheet clone using Svelte with SvelteKit. And when I tried to name the thing that we are trying to build, I was thinking I insert like SV in terms of like a sheet, but where to put. And apparently, I inserted it in the middle, which is called Shesvet, which is a bit mouthful and a bit not that nice. So Josh, Rich helped me. I mean, he did a poll on the internet, and I realized, and then somehow everyone chooses Svit. So I guess we will have to name it to Svit. So to do that, we are going to rename our project. Yeah, gonna rename it so that people have make the choice. People have spoken, so we are going to do that now. Yeah, and so let's see. Change it over here. Right, rename. Okay, so with this out of the way, let's continue with what we have. So this is our page that we have built so far over the last week. We have our sheets, top bar and bottom bar, right? So the order, it doesn't really matter. It's okay because we are using grids with a grid template areas, and basically we specify a top bar has to come on top of sheet and then bottom bar. Right, and now looking at sheets, we have close this. We have some column header and row header, and this is what we have built so far. This Google Sheet. We can scroll on the left and on the right. So today, what we are going to do is we're going to make this cell editable, right? We can click on it, but it's not editable. So we're going to make it editable. So, I mean, let's take a look at Google Sheet, right? Because we want to build something like a Google Sheet code. If we create a new sheet over here, a bit up a bit on, we have to zoom. Let me see. How should I view? Oh, okay, it's okay. So when you click on a cell, you can type a number or any value, right? And then this is the value of the cell. But if you, how about just this? Right, it's a bit hard to zoom over here because the shortcut itself is, okay, it's controlled and managed by Google Sheets. So apparently you can't press the shortcut called Command plus. You have to use the zoom function over here in the Google Sheets. Anyway, we can go back with the normal size. So here you can type in values, right? But for each cell, for example, if you have numbers, this is the value of the cell. And at the same time, you can also type in formulas. Formulas, for example, equals to this cell, E11. Then this is what you type. You type equals to E11. And when you hit enter, the value that you see is 1, 2, 3, but then the thing that you type is equals to E11. right? So, which means that there's one cell, the field of the data of the cell, there's like two things, right? One is the formula, the raw formula that you key in, and one is the value, the value that you display, or the display value. So we probably will have to think on how we design that. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's try to make it editable first, right? So when you try to click on any tab, any cell, right? When you click on it, you don't, it just does not feel like an input, right? You can just click on any cell, it's like this. But as soon as you go in and if you click it, if you double click it, then it turns into a input with with a cursor, right? You can see your cursor over here, right? And you can move your cursor, you can see a cursor, and you hit enter, or when you're done, when you leave away or unfocus of it, then then the cursor is gone, right? So it's like there's two modes. One is displaying mode, and then one is editing mode, right? And as you display, you see over here, there's no cursor, and only you double click into it, then it enters like a editing mode, right? And with formulas as well, if you try to click here, you try to type something, this is still editing, so it's not really setting the value, right? So if you think about like how the data flows, when you type something, it does not really set the actual value, right? In your editing mode, it's still you can make changes, but it doesn't really set the actual value of formula. It does not update yet. It just lets you update, edit, and once you leave or unfocus or move away, then that's when it sets the value, and then you have like all your reactivity or like all your formulas or flows and stuff like that, right? So that's some of my observation before we start building. This is some of my observation of how this behaves, right? And so this probably will um, uh, inform our decision making on how we want to design this cell in our Google Sheets. So I guess this is at least what we're gonna do for today, right? And let's see. Let's do it. Oops, let's close this with, okay, now in each column header and over here, I think this is where our cell lives. So this is our cell, which is now a cell with a div with some styling and with some, let me enter a bit, with some styling and with some class and some action, right? This is, yeah, some actions, and then this is the value. So now our cell can be in editing mode or display mode, right? And I'm not sure how many other modes there will be, right? It could be that we are maybe like displaying, I think in Google Sheet there's like formula display kind of mode where you can toggle, and you can display the formula instead of displaying the value, right? But then, yeah, so it's like, so it's displaying mode 1, 2, and the editing mode, right? So I would say that this is called the mode of our cell. So we call it the mode. And let's define some, I mean, we are in TypeScript, so let's define some types, right? Shall we? So here, you can say in interface type, the mode, or rather we make it an enum, the mode equals to, let's see, what should we, like editing mode? Editing. And we have the display value, display formula, right? We have 3 different modes. And then now by default, our mode is the display value mode. Right? So we can choose what to render on different modes. If it's that, if mode equals to mode dot display it work. Okay, value or display value. See what we have. Okay, they're all in display mode now. A bit annoying. We'll just show a smiley face. Okay, better. And now, of course, we have else if a mode equals to. Wouldn't it be great if we have a switch block? But anyway, editing mode. Then this is where we're gonna do editing, right? So here I am gonna have the maybe make it a input value, input bind value equals to the editing value in edit. This one we're gonna value in edit. Okay, well, edit value, right? String. So in editing, we is this, and then when it's displaying, we display the value. So maybe we should have the display value as well for now. Let's make it like two variables first, and then later on maybe we can see how we can actually define on this the design of a data structure where it's like one thing rather than a list of variables that scattered within the whole component, right? So over here, I think we can, let's see, we can display, I think we are, okay, let me set some default value first. Okay, nothing. Now, when we click, double click, then we should make it a, change the mode, right? So here we can add maybe a double click class on double click. Mode equals to mode, mode equals to mode. So we will toggle. If the mode is the display value, then we can change to editing. And if it's editing, then we'll change to display value for now. I just toggle between these two. Double, sorry, spell it wrongly. All right, double click. Right, so when I double click, it turns into input, and okay. So now if I move away, then it should actually turn back to a display mode, display value mode, right? So here in our this one, we can on blur, then we're gonna set the mode equals to mode dot mode. Come on, display value. Right. So here we are clicking. We can type something and we exit. Then it will turn into a display value mode, right? And then if we come back and type, yep, and then we move away, move away. I think there's some weird things happening. Yeah, but it's not focused in the first place. There's no on blur, right? So I think we can make it as soon as we double click, we can have an auto focus. Yeah, avoid, but let's try how it feels like. So we'll focus on this, and then we can click away, and then it will, yeah, we will focus, and then as we click away, then it will end, right? I think in Google Sheet, do I still have that Google Sheet? Okay, I should have it on my side so that I can always compare what we want to do, right? So if you hit something, and if you hit enter, right? Enter, and then you will jump to the next cell, as well as it will defocus, right? I think right now, let's not jump to an Excel first, but at least when we on key down equals to, okay, event key equals to enter. I think we also should set the mode to display value, right? So here, I come over here and you type something and you hit enter, then it should jump back to the mode, the editing mode, right? Okay, so at least we have something like this right now. Okay. Okay, so let's see. We I think let's focus on the styling, right? And now the style looks a bit ugly, right? This input fills up this whole space. So when you try to, I mean, inspect elements, as soon as you inspect, right? As soon as you try and inspect, you'll blur, and then it will not follow what you will blur out, and then you can't really style it. So I mean, one way you can do is you can set the display mode to editing first. Then at least with this, you have tons of input. Oh shit! Did I do something wrong? Let's refresh. Feel like there's too many inputs that is being set as autofocus at this point. Um, that's one way, and then you can do your styling, like inspect and then style it any way you want. And there's another way that you can do by when you try to look into this cell, right? For example, um, where are we? I think there's too many elements. It's stuck a bit, but let's see. Let me refresh our page. If I inspect this element, this is one trick as well. If you're inspecting this cell, right, for example, and you want to make sure that it starts at this state, and then also because when you go into this state, what you see is that this state. Haha. If you go into this state, then what you see over here is that you have this cell over here has changed, right? Because I mean this DOM structure over here has changed because you added another. So like here because you added another input element inside, right? And as soon as you leave, then it will disappear. You will remove, and then so here basically when you click and not click or you make changes to this DOM structure, over here we can actually set a breakpoint when the DOM structure changes. And you can do that in Chrome DevTools. I'm not sure in other DevTools because I primarily using Chrome for development, so I'm more familiar with this. I believe you could do something similar. Is you can go here to this element and then you say break on, and there's three different things you can break on, right? One is subtree modifications, which means whenever you add something, it will break somewhere, and then if you run, and then when you change it again, it will break again. And so basically, any time when you have an instruction that try to modify this subtree of this DOM element, it will break, right? There's another thing you can break is you can break on attribute modification, right? So which means that if you try to do something that adds new attribute or modify the attribute over here, right? Right now it's active. You try to shift and then you move to a different. You try to remove the class, right? Which means you're making changes to the attributes. Then that will also break, and you see we are in this state where we are breaking. You can observe in the source in which line we are trying to make that changes. At the same time, you can also do some styling, I believe, right? You can do styling as well. So what we are interested in probably is the third case where is node removal, right? We can break whenever we are removing some nodes because we add inputs, and then when we remove the input, we want to break there because when we want to focus on our DevTools, we probably will will want to remove that inputs, then we can break there and break at the state, and then we can do our stylings, right? That is one way as well. So hope you learned something. Maybe if you have used this, yeah, let me know. Or if you find this interesting, let me know as well. So here, break on, you notice that, I think it's big enough. You notice that this is not a either or kind of case. You can check on three of them, or you can only, or you want to just break on sub-tree modifications, right? So when you do this, I'm not sure if you are very familiar with Chrome DevTools. When you do in your sources, when you try to add breakpoints, zoom out a bit. When you try to add breakpoints on the side, you will find, okay, how do I open this up? Hold on, not this one. This one I can't open on the side. Zoom out a bit. Yeah, somehow this is showing. Just now it wasn't showing. If you if you um, if you look at the sources, you will see if you add breakpoints like this, right? It will add into a list of breakpoints where you can see what are all the list of breakpoints. And if you are observant enough, you'll probably notice there's DOM breakpoints as well. Over here, this is a breakpoint that we said you can temporarily pause it, add it, or remove it totally, right? And in the elements panel, you can also find DOM breakpoints over here as well. This is showing you, yeah, what are the breakpoints that you have. You can temporarily just pause them or remove them directly, right? Remove all DOM breakpoints. So here, we have this breakpoint set. Let's try to trigger that breakpoint and try to style our inputs. Here I can click in, we create a node. It's okay, not triggering, but actually trying to focus on, wait, node remove. Oh wait, remove the node, or remove this node entirely rather than the children, right? So yeah, then probably a better one would be the sub-tree modification. Let's just not do that. So when we focus, we'll modify, add input, and we over here then will be triggered. But this is where we are going to do our styling with our inputs. Hold on, where is the input? Is it removed already? No. Wait, hold on. Let's see. Let's see. I think I can set the breakpoint over here. Then, and next time, if I try, okay, I think we are good with this one. Elements. Let's try to, yeah, style this. So what I did is to add additional breakpoint right before we remove, and then we can finally see our input not get removed, and then we can try to modify the style. Right. So here, I think what we can have is, are we looking at inputs or the inputs, right? Inputs. Okay. Style. Can make it the width 100%. We can remove all the margin and the border, the padding. Right. So this fits nicely. And you can keep padding or not keeping the padding, it's okay. But when you add padding and it pushes out because internally you want more space, it's because you set the inner content width to be 100% and you have extra padding that's pushing the input out. And this is because when the box sizing is the content box, right? If you do a border box, which means the width that you set as 100% should include the padding and the border, then you set 100% width, border, with everything. It's still 100% width, right? So you see that the width does not push things out because it calculates that the width should include the border and the padding. Because of the box sizing border box, then everything is still within 100 pixel, 100%. So we're gonna set our heights to 100% as well, right? But in our case, actually, we don't really need any margin and border, so I can remove those. padding, let's keep, but somehow I see like there's some extra space on top. Right, so here one thing you can do is you can take a look at, you can hover on top of this and then you observe which one is what, right? So if I try to zoom on the left, and then you notice that I hover on padding, this is the padding, and on top I still have a little bit of, I mean, here, maybe a orange kind of space, could be because of the div itself has some padding. I think what I want to do is maybe to, no, it doesn't feel like so. Because border is here, padding, there's no padding. And the content, so the input itself is a bit down somehow. Position. Feels like it's being pushed down by 2 pixels by something, right? If I add relative to push it up back, it feels okay. But something is pushing it down. Let's see, padding. We don't have margin, we don't have border. We have border. Position wise, it is position. It is static, right? So, interesting. It's okay. I mean, let's copy this first. Let's figure that later on. But here in my inputs, what I like what felt is that if you write the CSS, you can place everything in, and then it should work. Let's refresh. Let's disable the breakpoint first. Disable all the breakpoints. Okay. I can't really tell from this very zoom in version whether there's extra space or not, right? The one thing I can tell is that when we focus, we kind of have some sort of outlines showing. I think that's great for accessibilities or like to show that you know which input you are at. But I mean, by design, the selected cell itself has already a border which is added on the cell itself. Then I think the input itself does not need to have any outlines or anything. So I think we can remove those as well. Right? We don't have outlines anymore. Then without the outline, I see that okay, so okay, interesting is this one grows, but ours does not. Maybe we need to make that happen. But still, I see that we are being pushed down by 2 pixels because of something. I'm not really sure what. Um, let's see if I try to remove any possible white spaces. Will that make a difference? So this space itself, not sure anyone here knows what happens or why there's something that causes a space. I mean, feel free to let me know. Yeah, I'm trying to figure this out. Let's see. What is this over here? What is this white space like that? My voice getting echo. Oh, hold on. I think I forgot to set up microphone. My voice is weird, right? Ah, man, I totally forgot about this. Why did I forget? Let's see. Hopefully this. I Is this better? Oh my, is this better? Today I learned outline box shadow with only spread radius. I think if you replace border with either outline. Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Jatin. A lot of things to know to set up a good live stream. Hey, have you seen this? It's a Svelte T-shirt. Got it from the Svelte Summit. Not sure. Are they still? Do we still have extras? I'm not sure. You can ask the Svelte Society. Maybe they still have extra T-shirts. But it's nice and it's very comfortable and yeah. Anyway, let's see. I think you replace the border with either outline or box shadow with only spread radius. It'll be better. Let's see. Border with outline or box shadow. Outline with replace border. Okay, okay. You mean the border of the this thing, right? Okay, let's try that. Hold on, outline. Where are we? Something is wrong. Inspect. Okay, something is. Let me try. Okay, here, inspect this thing. Instead of having a border, we make it a outline. Right? I think making outline. Yeah, it works. Yeah, I not very sure about why, but the difference between a border and an outline is that, yeah, it could be a border and outline, right? Because the difference between a border and outline is that the border itself does not take, the outline does not take space. Border takes space, right? Border will, remember when you have box sizings and stuff, border will actually push space to your width, or your width will have, or depends on if you are content box, then border will be drawn outside and it'll push its neighbor away. If it's a border box, then your width will condense the border and it will push the content in, right? So no matter what, the border will create space. But when you use outline, it's drawn on top of it. So the contents and padding, you will immediately touch the neighbor's content and padding, and probably margin will be trying to push things away. But the you and neighbor is close to each other because you don't have borders. Borders are zero, but outlines are drawn on top of it. So I guess that's why. Yeah, but does not really explains why. But I think that works. So let me think. But it does suspiciously have this extra 2 pixels that's pushing things. I wonder if we maybe set this to be. Let's just go back with our border implementation. Let's remove all our breakpoints. Remove all breakpoints. And if we try to, okay, so we are now being pushed down, right? I wonder if we do a box sizing, border box on a div, does it make sense? No. Actually, I'm just throwing things on the wall, hope it sticks, but I guess it doesn't really work that way. But anyway, I think this is a good advice. Let's change this to outline. So we don't have to think about border in terms of our calculation, right? So here now we have nicely input over here where we can type. Yep, and then yeah, basically that's it. One thing we will want to explore is we can expand our cells.
But let's come back to that later. Let's make the value works first, right? So here we type in 23 or 24, then as you enter, we should see 24 over here. And this, we know this is where our display value is. So basically, if we on blur over here, we can actually have it as a function. Finish editing. And here, finish editing will be setting the mode back to the display value, as well as setting the edit value equal to this display value, right? Something like, the other way around, right? Finish editing with this. Here we will, I think we can just pass this whole function in. This one is called finish editing. Then we type something, enter, then it's done. And we try to type 1, 2, 3, it is here. So you have your display value and the edit value updating at the same time, right? But of course, I mean, if you do G5, something like this, I mean, we just set the value. We didn't really treat formulas, right? So here, when we treat formulas, we need to know the value of G5 or basically any value on the screen. So you need some way to actually have a way to access all the values for each cells over here, right? Because it's not just so here in each cell itself, the edit and display value is like a state, inner state. It stores the thing inside. It stores these two within itself. Um, but um, you need, if you want to be referred by formulas from other cells, then it needs to be able to actually tell other cells that, hey, this is our value. So I would say that it's not a good way to make it a good way to have it within um, a state. Maybe we have to have something on top as like a parent or like a table that contains that has knowledge of all the cell values and formulas, and then each cell actually reads from there and then tries to update back the parent, or maybe it's like a store that the table has a stores of all the cells, and then in each cells you can actually update that store when it make changes, and then hopefully because it's a star, then um, you can also read the value from there, or you can derive new values based on formulas, right? Hope that makes sense. Let me take a sip of water. Hey, this is a great idea. I mean, this should be center aligned. Yeah, let's do that. Let's quickly do that. Row header, X align center. Column header, row header. Looks better now. Yep. And let's see. Yeah, I slowly learned about all this and realized that we can call out comments and stuff. It's really nice. I think I start to get a hang of this whole setup. Anyway, let's design our stars, right? Here, let me have a file called um, table. I'm gonna call it table.ts. It's like our table logic, right? And here we can export function stars, create table. So here, I guess in our sheets, create table. How about I just call it sheet, since this is a sheet, right? Sheets or svit. Um, so create svit. Hold on, this is svit. I realize that this should name as svit as well. I guess we got for this, but let's go back. Svit. Here we are going to create Svit based on, let's see, based on the number of columns and number of rows that we have, right? Number of rows, number of columns. So we're going to create rows, columns. Create this thing. Let's see, let me think. Let me make it an object first. Row, because it's a bit hard to know if it's just a positional argument. Like later on, you have say 1 and 2, and then which one is which, and then if you have more value, like which one is which, what is this value again? I mean, of course, TypeScript gives you some hinting, but I guess it's easier to, it's more readable and understandable if you have like row is this and column is this, then it's cleaner in terms of the intent, right? So I think for now, to do, yeah, what's a to do? But anyway, for now, let's just create a store for each cell, right? And yeah, let's just create a store for each cell. I know that here we have 26 over 50 cells, which means 26 times 50 stars. That's a lot. And I mean, you might not even need to make changes to them. So creating stars may be a bit redundant. But anyway, I mean, let's temporarily just do that first. And then we slowly optimize it along the way. Right. So here I have, I'm going to create Svit cell. I'm going to create a Svit cell like this, right? Basically, we're going to make it a function as well. Okay. In the meantime, I am going to for loop go through all the rows R of, let's R equals 0, less than row, R plus plus, and also C equals to 0, C less than column, C plus plus. And we're gonna look through all the rows and columns, and then we're gonna what's this? Oh no, semicolon. What did I just do? Okay, yeah. Go through each of them, and then we're gonna create a cell for each rows and columns. Right, and here you see that here the column name, we basically figure out the column name and the row index. I think this one we can actually extract it out as a function. Get column name, right? The reason I'm doing this is that this is number. The reason I'm doing this is that so that I can also get it over here. Column name equals to this one. We call this column. Here we also can get column. Wait, hold on. Export function. Get column name, column, right? And yeah, I mean it's auto import third, which is great. And row index, right? So here I'm gonna export function, get row index, row equals to number, return row plus 1. So here get row index, row. It's great. And then here we can also get the row index, R. Okay. And then we create a cell. And over here, I'm thinking that we can create a Svit as a map. So this one, let me type in the definition first. Column equals to number. Okay. We can create a Svit as a map, and then we return Svit. Okay. And The map, what is the key, what is a value, right? I think for now, to make it simple or make it easier to access or to know what is in D6, I'm going to start, like, I'm going to have our sheet to sets like D6, D6 in capital letters with our cell, right, which is the store for the split cell. Yeah. So here, I think something like this so that we can access them later on, right? So with this, we are going to say the column name plus the row index equals to the cell. And the cell itself, I believe it should also know about where it is right now, just in case, um, that so that it's so that if you're looking at one cell, you kind of know where it is belonging, and then it knows where to access from, right? So here I am going to I'm going to pass in the row is R and column is C for the split cell. Okay, so this is row, basically the same thing, but a different meaning, right? This is different meaning. So let's name it properly, right? This is supposed to be number of rows. It's supposed to be number of columns, right? And then this is number of rows. Number of columns. Okay. Row column. Now with this fit cell, let's see what we store in a fit cell, right? First thing is that it will have to know what is the current display value and what is current the formula, right? The display value and the formula, right? And I believe the formula is the one that you actually type and you save, and the display value itself depends or derives from the formula itself, right? But um, I would say that both are still a star, right? So here I'm gonna make two writable star, import writable from Svelte star. Writable. Um, and I'm gonna make writable star. Default value, I'm gonna put it empty first for now. So one is the display value. One is the formula. And I'm gonna return this, right? The row, the column, display value, the formula. And I believe this thing itself will probably will add more and more things in this thing to make it more uh, uh, that to do the syncing and figuring things out. Right now, I'm dumping the raw value into this object first, and then as we go along, we probably will realize that how we should design this split cell, right? What are the maybe methods, APIs, or what are the things that we can add in over here to sync the display value and the formula, or like calculate the formula, calculate the display value based on the formula, and stuff, right? But let's just keep it this way interface, split cell, row column display. No, these two are writables. Writable. Value will be maybe like a string, right? Okay, now we roughly have this. Let's try to make try to split from here. So in our sheet, let's call it our Svit. Connection is unstable if your Wi-Fi router. Oh man, somehow StreamYard is telling me that the live stream connection is unstable, but I have no idea what I can do to make it better because in my room with Wi-Fi right now. But I think let's just bear with it. Hopefully in the final recording it's better. But well, let's see. I'm changing this to Svits, and basically what I need to do also to import Svit as well. Everything again. This focus on this one. Right, everything's the same. We have not done anything different yet. So here we are going to create Svit, right? Which is a Svit. This is going to start as Svit. Here we're going to pass in number of columns, number of rows. What else? Number of rows, number of columns, either declare. No value exists in this scope. Oh no, this is called number of columns. Let me rename this as well. Just make it easier. Number of rows. Okay, so we have our Svit. Now over here in our cell, we are going to pass in our cell equals to the Svit.get. And here we can create the cell name. So const the cell name equals to get call name plus the row index, right? And then here we can get cell name like this, pass into cell. And in the cell, of course, we need to export that cell. This is actually our Svit cell. Right? Here with our cell, now we are going to read and write value of it. So here our edit value is actually a, I'm gonna just retain the thing that we have, right? So edit value is the cell dot formula, right? We change formulas, and here is the cell dot display value, and of course they are not strings anymore; they are stores. So meaning when we try to access the value, we're gonna use the store instead. Right here, we bind the value with it as a store, display the store value, and I think we are okay. So nothing changed, right? I think we just move this value out from the local state up to a map of cells in the Svit parent, right? The Svit component itself, right? But everything else, in terms of behavior-wise, let's refresh. Nothing has changed so far. Nothing has changed so far. But now, if we do, if we try to do formulas, right, and try to set value, I mean, the set value, right? So here is where we got interesting, right? So here is where we can, let's go to our Svit, where we can add functions over here, right? So formula with set. I think we can have, we can make it a custom store rather than just a normal writable store, right? We can have the sets function as something. And then the subscribe, I mean, we can still have that. Goes to formula.subscribe, right? Basically, this is like the we still, this is still follows a store contract. This is still a store. You can still treat it as a store. The subscribes to here. Here we kind of like intercepts the sets function of this writable store, because we can, and then we can still do this, and then which means in theory there's nothing difference, but you can add a console log over here, and I say updating cell. This is the row column with this value. Right, we can add this over here like this. Now here, let's open our console, clear everything. As we type something, as we are typing, we can actually update the cell of value, and you see we intercept it over here like this. Yeah. Hold on, let me drink a sip. But actually, it doesn't really matter. We don't really when we do sets, right? I just realized that. So we are kind of doing that for nothing. No, not really. We are not doing that for nothing, right? So here we kind of make it a custom store that we can intercept the sets. But this custom store itself, we can also add add new methods, right? I'm gonna add two methods over here. So one is start editing, and one is save editing, and another one is escape editing. Okay, it's self-explanatory. You can start, and you can either save or you can escape, right? I think I'm just gonna say stop editing whether it's a save boolean. Right, you can start editing and you can stop editing, and then whether you can choose to save or not, right? Why can you choose to save or not is that if you come over here in a cell, right? If you try to type something and you hit escape, you are exiting the exiting mode, but you are not saving. You just discard it, right? So here we can actually store the value of the store first, right? And then we as we are editing, as we stop, we can actually reset it back, or we can reset it back, yeah, or we actually save it, right? So here we can let's do this. Let's the temporary value. Temporary value. Let's do that first. Let's define a variable. So when we start editing, we can get the value of the store from formula. Right? We get the value of the store. And then as we stop editing, we could if we are saving, then we are going to set two things. One is to set the we're gonna set the display value to the formula, to the value of the formula, right? And or else we are going to set the stamping value. We're gonna set the formula back to the temporary value. The value is a string. Right? So it's when you start, you keep a reference of the temporary value, and then when you stop, you will set that value. You update the display value, or you update the formula, or you reset back the formula, right? So here, meaning when we finish editing, we can actually do the edit value dot stop editing, right? Stop editing, and then I'm gonna save it's true. And then we don't need to do this because this is what the stop editing will do for us, right? So for example, if I make changes, if I stop editing, then you will see that the display value is still updated because we do it within the stop editing over here, right? On the console log, oops, say stop editing cell. This one is the start editing the cell. Okay, so here if I type something and if I exit, I stop editing cell 4, 3, then yeah, I'm stop editing, right? So which means that we can also stop editing as we hit the else if event. We can change the switch case event.key case enter finish editing true break case escape finish editing false. Finish editing true, right here. Save boolean save, right? So here let's save this, come back. So here if I type something and if I blur, I'm saving. I stop editing but I'm saving. If I try to type nothing else and I hit enter again, I'm saving. But if I try to go back, I try to type something and I hit escape key, then something's wrong. But here I will not setting the okay, the temporary value is undefined. Oh, because we did not set start editing. Okay, right. So as we hit this mode, we need to start editing, right? So here is that if the mode equals to display value mode equals to mode dot editing, and then we also need to call start editing the formula, right? And else we are back to display value, right? So here, let's try again. If we type something and we hit escape, then let's refresh again. Type something, keep escape, then you will hold on, start editing, display value, editing, start editing. Wait, I didn't call start editing, right? Formula is not defined. Hold on, formula. No, the edit value. Save this. Okay. If I type something and I hit, so I start editing, right? And I hit escape, then I reset it back, right? If I come over here, type something, and if I continue to type anything, but if I hit escape, then I'm resetting back the editing value, and I did not update the display value. So display value is this, and if I go back, the edit value also, the format itself is also resetted back, right? So if I come over here, I still in ASDF, right? So here, the type definition is a bit wrong because I treat them as a normal writable store, but they are not. Okay. So we're gonna add two value over here. One is the start editing and stop editing. Right, starts editing, void, and then stop editing, void. But like we have a save boolean. Now we have nice type definition over here, right? Stop editing. Okay, so we can start and stop. I think with the sets, we just keep it as it is. We don't have to do anything with it. The set, the subscribed if you want. I think update is the same. In that case, we can actually just spread the formula over here and we add two functions in this formula custom store. Okay. Right now, next thing we need to do is that as we stop editing, we need to check whether the first character, so if it's safe, if the value that we have, if the first character is if the first character is a equal sign, right? So if the formula, so get formula starts with a equal sign, then we need to do something over here, something, because we need to make that the display value is no longer a normal. We need to make the display value to be uh sorry, what's it? You need to make the display value to be like a formula that based on something, right? So that's so if we check if it's equals to, if it starts with equal, then this is not a normal. You just set the text value anymore, right? So I mean this is else. Over here, this is like the normal cell value, but this is like doing some formula. Okay, so we need to do something over here when you type a formula. Um, yeah, exactly. That's what we are trying to do over here. We have so far, a very basic, ugly version of Excel, which we are called Svits. And yes, that's what we are trying to do. So here, what we are now, we managed to do a normal editing, right? And we can know when we start and stop editing the cell. Now we need to handle formulas, right? Um, Over here, before we even go into formulas, I see that this place, whenever we need to read the value, we are like trying to get formula, the actual value itself. And I feel that probably we can implement this formula store. We can keep a reference of the actual formula value over here outside of this writable, right? And then in that way, this formula, what we can do is this formula, we can hold on, we can actually keep only the subscribe function, subscribe, and then the set, we will, when we have the value, we will update the formula value at the same time. So this is where we do the intercepting, and then every time we set, we actually will keep this value in this variable, and at the same time update this formula store. So value, yep, something like this. So every time when you have setting this formula store over here, you update the value of this variable at the same time as update the value of this star, right? So here when you try to, this is subscribe, every subscribe, hold on, let me subscribe, right? Okay, subscribe. So here when I subscribe, I'm subscribing to the store. So every time you set, you update the store, but at the same time you store this value that you're setting into the this variable, right? And great thing about this is that so that every time over here, when we don't have to try to get the value of the store by trying to subscribe and then read the value out, right? We can read directly from this variable like this, right? Formula value over here, formula value over here. This is the formula value over here. Yep. And then this is temporary value. This is more of like, let's change this temporary formula value, or rather the last saved formula value, right? Make our variable name intents clearly so that we know what this is trying to save, right? And then if not, we restore it back to this. Okay. So now if we start with formula, with that done, if we start with a formula, then we need to do something, right? So here, let me take a sip and think in the same time. Okay, so while I'm thinking, hopefully my mind thinking ding 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 ding, and at the same time trying to answer some questions over here. How are you inline replace all text? Well, you can look at one of the. I'm assuming you're saying the variables that I'm doing. For example, here I can refactor and says, hold on, rename. Hold on, no. Rename symbol, right? Rename symbol over here, and then you can rename the variable name. At the same time, it's as you click over here, rename symbol, it says F2. Not sure it's clear enough from the screen, but it says F2. So meaning if I hit F2, it's the same, and I can rename the variable all at the same time, right? So over here, you'll be using one store for all cells. No, actually not, right? So all the cells are stored in this map, and then each cell is stored itself, right? So this cell is rather than one star for all the cells, but it's more of like multiple, like one cell using one star, right? And in fact, it's actually two stars because we need to show the one is when you're editing, like this is the actual formula, and one is the display value that you will display, right? So for example, over here, you type this is the editing value. This is one star stars the equals 1, 2, 3, and another star stars the 1, 2, 3 itself. Okay. Yeah. So it's a bit. So we have two stars per cell kind of design for now, right? And we probably will expand it as we go along, right? I can't really think that far. To be honest, like I'm not sure you can tell. Like I only have a rough idea on this before I start this stream. And as we go, we just figure things out, and you can see I'm like refactoring things over here and there as we go along. There's actually not a really smooth path forward. That's the idea of this whole stream, right? Yeah. So let me answer one more last one. What VS Code extension are you using? Well, I'm using this is a Svelte. This is a Svelte extension for typing Svelte for VS Code for doing. Oh, I need to update. I'll do that later. This is Svelte VS Code extension. For and then probably TypeScript. We don't need extension for that. Yeah, I don't really use a lot of extensions. Yeah, I mean, if you have good extensions that you think that is life changing to you, that you want to share with us, feel free to comments and yeah, reply. Right. So here we've done the cell sets. Now we need to do a formula, right? So let's see. Let me think. Formulas. Okay. So let's just do a let's just create a function. I will try to type something out and then I try to explain it, right? Because as I type, I'm trying to think what I'm trying to type at the same time. Okay, let's create a function, new function. And right now, so this creates a function. This is like doing fn equals to this. Okay, this is almost exactly the same. The only thing difference is that when you create a function, you create by passing a string as the function body, right? So for example, you say return 1, 2, 3, something like this. Then this is equivalent of doing like, maybe like return 1, 2, 3. Okay. And if you ask me like well, how about if I want to pass A over here and then what is A, right? How do I do that? Then you can type however many arguments you can have, like A, like B, and then this is written A plus B, right? Something like that. And then this will gives you a function that looks like this, plus B, right? So the only difference using a new function is, or rather there's a lot of nuances about like creating a function like this, but this allows me to have a very dynamic kind of function, and we create that function rather than we use rather than we write, because this function over here, what we want to do is that we want to maybe return, say for example, if you have a formula called equals 1, 2, 3, we're going to turn it to return 1, 2, 3, and this is a function, and then we run this function. We run this function um, we use this function to set the value of the display value, right? We run this function and get the value, and then we run it, right? So something like that. Okay. So here we can turn this is the formula value, replace equal sign with, oops, why am I typing? With the return, oops, hold on, return this, right? So for now, let's don't have any arguments first. So we have this function, and then I'm going to create a derived star. Why derived stars? You will see later. But the rough idea of why I'm thinking about derived stars is that it's easy if you have equals 1, 2, 3. But if you have formulas like G1, right? Then you kind of have to derive from the star value of G1, right? The star, the cell G1 store value, you have to derive that, and then every time when that star change, you will change, right? So this is called the derived star, and I am going to derive star equals to derived star equals to derived. For now, I don't have any stars. I'm just put it empty. Wait, hold on. Let me import derived. Right here, I'm not deriving any stars for now. And then the value itself is that I am going to return function value like this. Okay, and then I'm gonna I'm gonna call this like this, right? And future, I think we probably can create. Let's see. Yeah, just call this like this, and then here, what we can do next is that we derive star, and we subscribe the changes of the derived score, and every time when you have new value, gonna set display value with that new value, right? New display value. Okay. At the same time, I think we will keep this in a reference. Let's write us current derived star over here like this, right? Reason is that here maybe I can do some cleanup first, right? If current derived star, if current derived star, then current derived star, then no, actually I don't have to. Just need to clean up. Let clean up this returns us the cleanup, right? So if type of cleanup equals to function, I'm gonna call cleanup to clean things up. This thing over here. Okay. Okay, so now we create derived stars, and then the value of the derived star is based on the return value of the function, and this function is, as I say, I replace equals to return. So meaning like if my formula looks like this, then I returns this, and then this creates a function out of it. So the function will look something like this, okay? And then, so derived star, we're gonna call this function, we're gonna run this, and then we return this thing, right? So it's kind of like eval in some sense, but there is distinct differences between a function and an eval, right? A function, uh, I can't remember the exact details of all of it, but eval will actually read from the scope, from the current scope of how you define it, and functions are function versus eval. Let's um, Boolean function. So function creates a function that executes in the global scope only, right? So you don't difference between eval is that it does not read all the local variable from here. So like cleanup, formula value, save, all this within our local scope is not um, captured within an eval, or it's not stored or run within an eval, but it still have access to your global scope, right? So it's slightly less uh, uh, like slightly less secure, but it's almost the same. But I'm doing this for now because I guess it's easier for me to not figuring out how to parse and run this formula. Maybe we will have to do that in future, but for now we use a function we use JavaScript to help us, like the engine, JavaScript engine itself, to help us to run the formula, right? We create a function out of it, and we use that to run the formula. So here, if I come over here, if I try to do something, say for example, this is equals to 1, 2, 3 plus 4, 5, 6. As we hit enter, then we create that function, right? 1, 2, 3 plus 4, 5, 6, and then this is we replace it, though this is like this, and then as we create a function that turns something like this, and then we run the function, derive our store, run a function, and then we subscribe, and then as any time when this function changes, we will set this updates the value of our display value store. So here the formula is still like this, equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But the value that you display value see is 5, 7, 9, right? Because that's the sum of it, right? So now the tricky thing next is that we will want to also do something like say equals to E3, right? But then you get errors because when you try to run that function, E3 is not a is a variable, right? But then this variable is not defined, so you get reference error where you say you're trying to access this variable, but it's not defined, right? So your formula looks something like e e e3. This whole thing is like e3, but it's not defined, so you can't really you get a runtime error when it says accessing a variables of undefined. So what to do now? Well, first is how do we access this E3? We need to get it from the from here, this map, right? So I think in each cell, maybe we should also keep reference of this switch over here. So this will look something like the map of string, and the map of string to a switch cell. Okay, that's better, easier to read. Then, so here we have this Svit over here. Now, here within the function formula, we would need some way to access it, right? So I guess a way to think about that is to use. I think I will use a. I will first, of course, let's create a function to do this first, right? Let's check this out, because this function is getting huge now. I think you will see that every time when I'm doing this kind of like moving things around and extracting things, is that because I wasn't really sure what to do, and this is a way to kind of stall and say, okay, let's do some cleanup, get uh, uh, create 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 derive display value store. Okay, and then here I think we also need to pass in our Svit cell. So this is Svit is the map of string and the Svit cell. Okay, so here in this function, right, we have formulas, we replace this, and I think one thing we could do is we can figure out, we can have an object, for example, like this. Wait, where's this? Let me copy this over as well. You can have an object, and then we can have an object that has, say, for example, e3 equals to value, right? 1, 2, 3, for example. Then over here in our formula, we can actually use this thing called a with. So for example, with this object like this, with this, then I can actually, this will actually mix these all the properties itself as like a variable that can access. This is like a very old JavaScript feature with that you can no longer recommend it, but we kind of still try and use it. But basically, with the expression, you given the expression, like all the any statements, right, will basically able to access this variable property from this expressions itself, right? So let's try to do that with this Svit. We are going to return our value. Sorry, not here, but we are going to wrap it around with this with this. Okay. So now our function will look something like this. Okay, and this object will need to pass in somewhere, right? So we pass in as Svit. Okay, so this is called Svit. And we need the parameter called Svit. So this is the parameter Svit. So when we call this, we'll have to call Svit, but actually it's this object, right? So here like this. And if we save this, let's try to go back and run. We try and say equals to E3. When we save, then this is 1, 2, 3, right? Because we are able to read this value out, and it's 1, 2, 3, and then we know this is 1, 2, 3. But the thing is, we are not doing in type just E3, right? We type anything. We can E4 or E or whatever, and then you get errors because E4 is not defined, right? It's possibly be anything over here, right? So here, what we can do is instead of normal object, we can actually make it a proxy. A proxy. So proxy is like it will try to read. So right now the object itself, right? Say for example, just now the object is like only E3, right? 1, 2, 3. And if you try to read other properties from here, you probably get undefined. So if we try to read more values. We want to, if we try to read any values from here, maybe we can have, not sure actually proxy works with, but anyway, let me try, like if we use a proxy over here, like define a proxy, then get is the get the property name. Maybe with this, we can read any value out of it, right? And then let's try attempt to read to property name. See whether it works. I never tried this before, so I'm just see whether it works. Let's try equals to E3. No, it does not. It doesn't really read this value out of this thing. No, does not work. Okay, let's see what's next. Proxy. Object may have an unscopable symbol. Scopable. Hold on. Wait, has. Okay, it's called has. If it's has, return true. See. Check if has key. Key is has. Okay, key can be name, string, or symbol. So it's just say key. Right? 1, 2 equals to E1. It checks if has E1, and then it attempts to read property name. Is an object. Interesting. Let's see what is this property name is. Oh wait, I think you need to put target in front, right? Let's try E3. Right, so it attempts to reach unscopables as well as attempt to reach E3. For unscopable, I think we can, if that's what's unscopable. Which defines list of property that should not be added to the scope. Okay. So to not add to the scope, I think we just return object that has property list of properties. Okay, if a property name equals to symbol dot unscopables, and probably return empty. Everything can be scoped. And then if we try to read value, we can say equal return. And hopefully, I'm lazy to do a check, but for now, hopefully we can say here we are going to use the suite that gets this value, right? Since we are reading the this value out of it, right? So as string, save this. Let's let's still keep that attempt to read property name. Okay. So here is equals to E3. Then attempt to read E3. Then it gives me yeah, it checks if it has E3 and then it attempts to read E3 from here. Right? E3 gives me the whole cell. And what we need is probably just the value of E3, which is the from the, I think we can use the display value. So here gets this one dot display value, and then we're going to get the value store from here like this, right? Like this. And so here, if I try to do equals to E3, has nothing. But if I try to type something to E3 first and equal E3, then I get 1, 2, 3 because I'm reading that value out. Phew. So here we kind of have this way of getting the value out already, right? From the cell, right? If I say this is 4, 5, 6, this is E3, 1, 2, 3, then I say plus EF3, then I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not great because these two are just strings, but I mean, it's amazing that this works already, where we with using JavaScript to like evaluate all these things for us, right? And if I try to -3, I think because of how type conversion and stuff, this will actually do the will convert it to numbers and then do calculation for me, and then everything I let the JavaScript engine to evaluate the functions and handle it for me, right? So now, not that great because if I try to change something, it's not flowing reactively. And so to do that, we want to know like what are the stores that we need to subscribe to, right? So here, over here, we can actually run through this function once, and then we kind of see what are the variables that you will access, and like what are the property names that you access, and then we will use those as the stores that you will um, you will we will use that to find out all the stores that I need to derive from, right? Okay. So for example, I can say let stars equal to 0, or stars to subscribe to an empty array. And then I also need to check like checking detecting equals true for now, and later on we're gonna say detecting equals to false. And over here we can run this function, right? So as we run this function, it will run through the function and get us a value, but at the same time it will call this and everything, right? So here we can actually say if the if it's detecting, right, then we can actually say that we want to push into this array, right? We're gonna add the stars that we need to subscribe over here like this. And later on, detecting is false, then we don't have to care about it anymore, right? So here we do this, and of course I mean, this one we can out first, like this. So we're gonna push this star in over here to the list that we need to subscribe, and then return just the value of the star like this. So here display value. Over here, so now we kind of collect the stars that we need to subscribe. So here, if I try to console log stars to subscribe, you will see that, say for example, if I change it equals E2, hold on, now undefined eval current stars. Do I said something wrong? This, hold on, where's this eval current? Oh, sorry, I need to call with the object as well. Sorry about that. Let's come back. So here, if I try to say E3, I attempt to read E3, and then I kind of get, let me try to add a few more lines to make it clear. And this is done, right? Okay, so here that's clear. So if I try to say equals to A1, right, and I and then I'll go into detecting, and it will check if it has A1 and read value, and then done, right? And same time, after running through the function, I kind of read, and because detecting is true, then I will push it into a stores. Then I can get these stores out from this, from this over here, which means now I can actually subscribe to them, right? I can pass this to the stores to subscribe. And of course, okay. And of course, after that, you will try to actually read this again because we are trying to run the derived stores, right? And so you will see this thing again, right? But that is like one round. And every time we change the value, right? You will run through this again and we create a star. Anyway, as we create cell, create derive display value star right here. Okay. So here we get the list of stars, then we can use it to derive. For now, I don't really care the value, but actually I can use that value and then, piece that up. And so that we don't have to use a proxy in the actual evaluation, right? We can have a different, we can build a function and to do that. But for now, let's just do this and let's refresh this page. So if I run equals, if I E4 is 1, 2, 3, this is 4, 5, 6, then if it's equals to E3 minus E3 minus E4, you get 3, 3, 3, right? And great thing about this is that we can come over here and change, and this updates itself, right? Because we detected 2 stores that we need to subscribe, and every time when these 2 stores changes, we will update our value, right? And great thing about it is, I think if I say this is 400, and if this is equals to E2 plus 3, so every time we change the edit value, we haven't updated the 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 display value, right? But as you mine plus 3, and as you do that, you update as you exit it, right? When you hit enter, then you'll update the display value of this cell. And as you update display value, then this, because it's subscribing to it, then you get the value, and then you display this. You update the display value of it, but the formula itself is not changed, right? We only change the formula and display value, and basically this, I mean, this is kind of amazing to see that it just like works. It's fun, right? And now you kind of have a reactive cells in your suites, right? So I think we have done a lot today. Let me clean this up a bit. And I'm gonna push this code up, and you can take a look and see how. I mean, yeah. And basically, and then figure it. I mean, if you're trying to wrap your mind around this, I will push the code around, and then so you can take a look and you can figure it out and clone it and figure it out, right? So here today we kind of managed to do our a reactive cells. Okay, now of course there's a lot of things to take note, right? You can't really select the cell as you type formula, right? That's something that we can improve on. But now we have our reactive cells, and we can also have formulas. It's because right now with the width, right? With this, you can actually get formulas in as well. So for example, we can have, say, like formula functions, right? So for example, formula functions equals to, like, say, sum return args dot reduce. Let result equals, let me quickly type this, return result. Okay, I mean, let's forget about that. A plus A and B. So if, for example, you have formulas like this, then here, if we can say that if this property name in formula functions, and return this formula functions with the property name. We can do something like this. Then basically, if you try to read a sum from here, right? Say for example, F3. Okay, this is 1. This is 1. This is 2. And over here, if I say sum E F2 and F3, then these are like variables, right? The sum is a variable that you want to read. F2, F3 is, and then you can, yeah, and then you can have it as you can read this sum from this suite of formulas that you can have, and then it will run those functions for you as well. Because now, as you try to access this variables, this key, you can find it in this over here. Then it returns this function for you, right? We access this function and return that for you, right? So I guess this is yeah, this is it for today. We've done quite a lot. I think I have said that, but yeah, we've quickly secretly add a formulas, but yeah, that's it. So what's next, right? So I think what's next is that if you look at the spreadsheet over here, we kind of roughly done a very basic reactive cell. There's a lot of things that's not handled. For example, if you try to type sum, the actual way of doing it is actually a syntax called a colon. That's very different from what we have. But I think for now, the reactive cells part, we just let it be first, and then we come back on that later on. But now, as we see things, right, we hover on things. You can see the formulas on top over here. You can see the cell over here. Basically, you can click on different cells. You can you can click on arrow key to navigate to different cells and focus on them. And then you can hit enter key and then make changes to it. So there are more small, tiny kind of UX things within a sheet that you can move around and see what you are looking at, right? So those things, right? These parts and the cell moving around the cells and maybe copy pasting to cells, that kind of thing. We'll probably explore that next week, right? So I guess that's it for this week. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye. How to end? End.